Do you feel a change in New York, New Jersey Jewry? Do you feel a change through Mamdani and the other stuff that you cover? Do you feel it in the streets? Do you think there's a change? Do you think that change will have economic or lifestyle decisions and changes that are going to affect, like, in simple terms, do you think that people will be buying property in Israel, going down to Florida? Do you think that things are going to be really changing? Or do you think it's just a blip and it keeps going because it's too big to change, and life goes on?
I'm generally a cautiously optimistic person by nature, but
well, which one is optimism in this case?
Well, yeah, I think the October 8th moment for all Jews in the diaspora keeps sort of reigniting, with what we saw first in the just wellspring of left-wing anti-Semitism that a lot of us sort of right of center to begin with knew was there in academia, across the culture, across Europe in the West, and then starting seeing it on the campuses here as well, like Columbia, NYU. All this campus protest encampment stuff was not a shock to a lot of Jews who were right of center. I think it was a shock to the progressive Jews who were liberal Zionists who believed they were allies and had all these allies and were considered marginal as well, one of them, and were isolated there. What did surprise us, those of us to the right, is this new ascendant, real, palpable, like visceral right-wing anti-Semitism that is here and being embraced and mainstreamed. And it leaves...
I mean, mainstreamed is not the word. I mean, the vice president of the United States, basically in tacit terms, but with clear, kind of dark, language, but also tone, is completely sent if we were thinking Trump, Rubio, Huckabee, suddenly JD Vance kind of issued a totally dark and different tone, a very Tuckery tone than the head of Heritage echoed that, and it's
yeah,
like,
and just
whoa.
What's in this tent? Douglas Murray used to say, you shoot up a flare in your victory, and then you see what's around, and if you don't call out the weeds and the darker forces, they're going to spread, and they will. Well, they will, certainly will. And you do see what's around, and you're like, wow, I would think the common sense, decent people, especially in the conservative movement, would all just be able to say, hey, that's not acceptable. We don't stand on those kinds of principles and ideas that are overtly racist, anti-Semitic, bigoted. That's not what we are. That's what the left caricatured us as and characterized us as, falsely so. And you're trying to make that true. That's the easiest thing you could say, and instead they're getting caught up in, we don't cancel anybody, we need to unite the right. And I'm like, the best way to divide the right is by trying to unite with those who want to divide you.
That's a great point.
And we can talk about these dividers and demoralizers, but before,
let's play some videos. Go ahead.
To wrap up the point about where it feels like, it definitely feels like as a Jew in the world, who cares about being Jewish, not just someone who was born Jewish, not just someone who's ethnically Jewish with a Jewish mother or father, who like a lot of these far left Jews in New York who are voting for Mamdani, I think for them, their identity that's much more meaningful to them is that of a liberal, a progressive. And I think a lot of their Judaism, frankly, is filtered through that lens. And whatever tikkun olam elements we can take out of Judaism and filter through a liberal, progressive agenda, that's what we're going to be. That's our identity. Our Jewishness is simply, maybe it's lox and bagels and that we were born Jewish. And I'm not trying to create this competition, but it seems to me that there's so much more to being Jewish in terms of Judaism, ritual, practice, community, family, the things that we commit to. Israel, especially, as being, you can't separate that and Zionism from being Jewish, as far as I'm concerned. So if you care about those Jewish values, exclusively Jewish values, particular to Jewish life and Jewish existence, safety, continuity, it feels very alone right now as you clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am stuck in the middle with you. There's a shift. When I say cautiously optimistic, I think in the United States, especially, there's a silent majority of people who aren't in the streets protesting and campaigning for far left candidates. They're raising families, they're working hard, and they have common sense, and they look at the Jewish people, and they're, rather than resentful and envious, they're inspired and want to emulate some of our best qualities as a people, and they look to us with an affinity and adulation, a philo-Semitism that I think is silent because there's concentrated minorities that are very loud online, on Twitter, and in the sort of left and right-wing spaces. And I do think there's this majority out there that says, I'm pro-American, I'm pro-Western, I'm pro-Jewish, I'm pro-Israel. I think it's there. So that's what I say. There's a shift, and the battle lines are drawn, you know?
I think I do agree with you. And I want to remind everybody, this show is from Israel, about Israel. We're Israel-centered here, and we're taking a kind of unusual delve into American issues, but only really from my perspective because of the importance of American Jewry, our brothers and sisters. And I agree with you that there's millions of normal people who embrace Israel, who embrace the Jewish people for various reasons, including the Bible, including the fact that Israel is the outpost of liberty and anti-jihadism and many good values. You know what, Ami, you're being a little too serious. Let's see the way that you, in this case, see the Zohran Mamdani victory in New York City.
You guys ready to take back New York City? Yes! Are you ready to make NYC more affordable? Yes! Even though none of you pay your own rent anyway? Yes! Do you guys hate your parents? Yes! Even though they paid for your college education where you learned all these ideas? Yes! Are you ready to get rid of all Zionists in New York City? Yes! Even though, of course, the majority of them are Jewish, but we'll call them Zionists? Yes! Are you ready to not arrest violent criminals in the streets of New York? Yes! But we will arrest Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu? Yes! Are you ready to turn NYC into San Francisco? Yes! Are you ready to take power away from corporations and billionaires? Yes! And instead give that power to politicians to rule over you by force? Yes! Oh my God, yes! Are you ready to eliminate luxuries in your life like matcha tea, smoothies, and hot yoga? No. Are you ready to pay your fair share and higher taxes? No. So it's only other people's money that we're going to use, not yours. Yes!
Okay, so that was an excellent piece. And it kind of gives us a sense of what the ideologies behind the voters are. And you also critiqued the people running against Mamdani. You said that the other side brought up very weak opponents who really did not articulate the values of liberty, the values of capitalism, the values of pro-Israelism.